Hey everyone, welcome to the episode of Launch Control. In this episode right here, I'm going to be talking about the kind of debt that destroys products and companies more than any other kind of debt that I've seen plague a product. What kind of debt is this? Let's talk about the story behind how I came to this conclusion, and then I'll talk about what this was and how I discovered it and how it affected my personal journey. So after developing my product and launching it and having customers using it, it got to the point where I had no money anymore and I didn't have enough income to coming in order to continue development. So what ended up happening was I had to put my product on maintenance mode, which means no further development. And I had to basically keep it running because I already had existing customers using the product. So it was not a very ideal situation, but that's all I could do at that point. So the only other way for me to then bring in enough revenue was to take up other jobs, like freelance jobs. So I put my product on hold and I picked up a freelance job. I worked as a Ruby on Rails developer. So, building that product, I learned enough to be able to getting jobs for doing Ruby on Rails development. And during this job, I learned a lot. I learned all the mistakes that I made building my own product. I realized that I had actually built enough, so much technical debt into the product that it would have been actually very difficult for me to do any further development on it. So when I did this new job, I had taken over from another developer and I learned everything that they were doing right. And I learned how much I actually didn't know technically to be able to build a sophisticated piece of software. So that experience taught me that having high technical ability, having high standard for doing things technically right was critical to the life cycle of a product. To be able to iterate quickly, you need well-written piece of code. To be able to move quickly and having things not break along the way, you need, for example, you need automated tests. So though a lot of those things were missing because I was just doing things in the interest of getting it done. So what ended up happening was I had to take a lot of shortcuts when I was building my hotel software, and I missed out on actually technically learning the right way of actually building products. What ended up happening was my product kept having issues, having bugs, and I'm not talking about small bugs, I'm talking about bugs that I need to go in and fix. And because the code was so messed up, because I had to rush through it, I was making kind of like all the wrong technical calls instead of focusing on actually building it right the first time round, so I don't have to go back and rebuild and fix the same thing and costing time and money. I took shortcuts and made it into a mess. What ended up happening was I actually really enjoyed working on that new product from the agency because it was so well written. I learned a lot from it and I continued the great, all the good things that was in it, like for example writing automated tests and keeping the code structured and clean, and the project was pleasant to work with and it was easy to iterate for the customer. So what I had learned was I should have done the right technical calls. I should have what's called a technical due diligence. When you write code, you have to make sure it's well structured, it's clean, it can be iterated upon. Other people who jump onto it can understand what the code is easily in an elegant manner. The code has to be well tested so it doesn't have major bugs. It can have small bugs, but it should not have things that just break all the time. And even though you fix it, it still keeps breaking. Where, a lot of times in a lot of projects I see where people, when, for example, myself, I don't follow the proper due diligence of doing technical work, and don't aspire to the highest craftsmanship of code, what ends up happening is I fix one problem, another problem starts, and then when I fix that problem, another problem starts. So it's endless putting out the fire, and it's very difficult to make progress that way. This kind of a debt is called technical debt, and it is the debt that is like quicksand for a product, because it doesn't matter how many people you hire. If those people cannot perform efficiently and they keep putting out fires, you're not going to make any progress. And that is one of the things that I learned when I was working with this agency building other people's Ruby on Rails project. So I had great success. I was doing really well because I learned from the project that was already there, and I had other people doing code review, and they would critique and help me comment on my code. And I grew as a developer. I grew better. I was doing much better than when I was doing it on my own project because I had no clue. I had no one to do any checks to make sure that I was doing the right thing on my piece of code. So when I worked on other people's code, it became extremely high quality. It worked out really great. And then the founder of the company moved me onto another project, which was even more challenging. And I was able to tackle that. And I had a great friend whom I worked with on that project, and I learned a lot from him. And then we had a great partnership on that project, and it was amazing, and it worked out great. So what are the takeaways from this video? Do not skimp on technical due diligence. Do not skip on great architecture. Do not skip writing automated tests. Make sure that things are well written. It's like you're building the foundation for your product, for your company. The foundation's got to be nice, clean, and be future-proof. Having a future-proof project is not about having all the features under the sun. It is about having the enough features to get you off the ground, but the code needs to be clean. It needs to be well tested. It needs to be well written so that when you put more developers on the team, they can perform, they can sprint, and they can run fast, and they can accomplish things for the product. So with that, I'm going to conclude, and I hope you learned something from this. And with that, I will see you all in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share this video if you found it useful. If you have other people who are building digital products, this may be very useful for them. Go ahead and share, and also let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Happy to take any comments, and we'll look forward to replying to you guys. Have a good one.